You know, it's not that much of a secret with those who know me that Daredevil is my favorite TV show of all time, and that he is just one of my favorite fictional characters ever created. So when the 2015 show came to an end, and there seemed to be no chance of seeing the original cast of not only Daredevil, but the other Defenders shows come back, it made me truly sad. What we got with all those Netflix shows as a whole were so incredible and extremely taken for granted at the time. And as time went on, it felt like everyone just forgot about them, except for Daredevil, obviously. That most of all broke my heart. People were screaming at each other in YouTube comment sections whether they are canon or not, with some people wishing they weren't, making it feel like all this time caring for these stories, characters, actors, writers, directors, cinematographers, fight choreographers, editors, lighters, and the one costume designer was pointless and hurt because it seemed like people just disregarded this side of the MCU. So to see Charlie come back in No Way Home, Vincent reprising his role in Hawkeye, Bernthal coming back to don the skull once more, and the possibility of Ritter and Coulter coming back as well, has made this little grumpy nerd's heart grow 3 times its size. And to see the shows have a new life on Disney Plus bringing in more fans is one hell of a thrill. But then of course, as we've gotten closer to this hopefully soft reboot, the fans and myself included have become a bit defensive of what we're hearing. With the show being on Disney Plus, the head writers not having the most confident-inducing track record, Charlie talking about how the tone and violence will be brought down, Foggy and Karen not coming back, we as fans are scared that this will be some slapstick comedy, and honestly rightfully so at this moment. But I'm here to see if we can come together for one moment and see if there's a way where this toned down version can work, and I think it can. Wait, before you go shooting at me, just hear me out, okay? Would I like a hard R, Daredevil, and Punisher? Yeah, obviously. I mean, who wouldn't? But the reality is we aren't getting that right now, so let's just see how this could work. Now, if you've been around the nerdy commentary channels lately, one name is constantly brought up when talking about a PG-13 Daredevil, that being Mark Waid. He did 2 runs on Daredevil between 2011 and 2015 that was more lighthearted and had a comedic edge to it. Now, I'm gonna tell you something you probably haven't heard much of with the PG-13 argument. I've read most of Waid's run and absolutely love it, but it's not the right tone to choose right now. I'm looking at something even more recent in the comic book world with the writer known as Chip Zdarsky, who has been writing for Daredevil since 2019 and is still going on. He is the tone that should be looked at for this Born Again show. Zdarsky's run is pretty serious but can definitely be classified as PG-13. It has extremely brief sexual undertones that are not overly explicit and does not rely on gory violence to sell its action. The stories don't deal with that much disturbing material and keep things mostly serious rather than dark, and if you want a good explanation of the difference between those 2 words, I got a good video right up here on the right hand corner explaining it. But anyways, it relies mostly on a serious tone with very well thought out scenarios that put the characters in emotionally and morally uncertain places that have them dig deeper within themselves and ask who they are. Now let me tell you why Waid's run works so well and why it won't work in the context of the MCU. When the Waid run started up, we just finished a run that lasted 13 years that was started by Kevin Smith and then was mostly written by Brian Michael Bendis of Ultimate Spider-Man fame, where Daredevil was pushed to the most dark, disturbing, and violent places that there was truly no darker you could go with the character. I mean, this run starts off with Matt almost murdering a baby because he believes it might be the Antichrist. And who knows, it might be. Go read Guardian Devil by Kevin Smith. It is one of my favorite Daredevil stories and it needs some more love. But anyways, when the Bendis run picks up, we have storylines like the old man that Matt saved as a kid causing his blindness was actually a pedophile. So yeah, the Mark Waid run was a bit of fresh air. It told more comic-like stories, not making them so grounded, and added more humor, brighter, more simplistic art, and brought back Daredevil to his more adventurous roots. So needless to say, after 13 years of the most depressing and disturbing Daredevil stories, it was nice to get something like this. Now let me tell you why this won't work right now in the context of the MCU. We're already kind of getting that non-stop, humorous, lighthearted tone with every project lately, so to get something more gritty and grounded would actually be to the MCU's favor right now. And secondly, comics work a little differently than film and TV. Comic book fans know that there is a constant shift in characters' tone because there are a constant shift in writers, which comic book fans follow more closely than the average film or TV fan. So they know if they don't like this run, someone else will eventually pick it up and rectify what came before. They're more used to the lack of consistency at times. In movies and TV, you want that consistency though. You want to watch a Spider-Man movie and then watch an Avengers movie and he seems mostly the same, and if he is different, it's because of character growth. So with that said, we know and love the MCU Daredevil a certain way, so we need him to stay somewhat in line with that, and sure, you can change a few things here and there. I mean, in the MCU timeline, the last time we saw the character, he was in 2017, and now the MCU is in 2025 or 2026, so it's almost been 10 years since we've seen him in the timeline, so there should realistically be some kind of change. Now, let me tell you how Born Again could work in a PG-13 setting. I say keep a serious tone, don't go too goofy. I don't want to be seeing some cartoonish character like Stiltman. Don't rely on gore, but keep the action grounded and in camera with the same quality of choreography we have seen previously, and even more so now that the budget is literally 4 or 5 times the size. Don't overuse CGI, allow there to be real acrobatics, real environments, real stuntmen to be seen on camera. Film most of it for real on the streets of New York instead of a green screen in an Atlanta studio. Choose your settings carefully and make them grungy and rough. Use these settings to enhance the tone of the sickness that is the criminal underworld. Have the writing challenge each character emotionally and mentally. Put Matt in situations where he doesn't just have to use his intellect, but every aspect of his character, whether it be his fighting skills, his lawyer skills, his skills of being able to slip in and out of different personalities. And now that the timeline has pushed almost 10 years, allow that to play a vital part of the script. Allow his injuries to cause effects to his body, effects to his mental state. Keep in mind with every episode why Matt is doing what he does. Put him in morally compromising situations where he doesn't know if he made the right decision afterwards. Forcing him to reflect if he is doing this for himself or doing it because it's the right thing to do. Having him look inside and see if he is becoming the monster. In the Chip Zdarsky run that we mentioned earlier, Matt kills a robber by accident and feels so much guilt that he turns himself over to the police to face his crimes and refuses to be Daredevil. Something like that is interesting, compelling, and has a darker tone which pushes the character and shows there are consequences, making the audience care more about the world these characters inhabit. I also want to see Matt Murdock be a hero, not just Daredevil. Have a larger emphasis on how much good he's doing for his community as a lawyer, having him once again ask, does he really need to be Daredevil anymore? Especially since the time he donned his cowl, the world has exploded with more heroes. What makes him so special? Give him that type of existential crisis. These are all great ways to make the show and Daredevil/Matt have a serious tone that pushes more intriguing ideas, that allows us to explore more of the character, and hopefully a more grounded view of the MCU like the original series. Let them show the consequences of these giant battles and how they affect the little guy. The first episode of Daredevil showed that there are certain aspects of Matt and Fisk created due to the Battle of New York. Higher crime and property damage caused the rise of Fisk as he bought whole neighborhoods and controlled them. Matt and Foggy got their office on a discounted price because of the Avengers battle. Luke Cage had to stop weapons dealings that use Shatari tech. These are great ways to take these larger than life events and make them emotionally tied to the people of the MCU and make us care more for when these world ending scenarios occur. Now with Punisher himself as a character, that's a tough one, but I think I got a solution. Number 1. Don't have him be a main character. You need to keep Punisher to a limited amount of episodes and keep them character focused. And then the even harder part is don't make it about the differences between Matt and Frank. We've seen that so many times. Switch it up. Focus on their similarities. Some of my favorite moments from not only the show but the comics are when Matt and Frank put aside their differences and work together, seeing eye to eye. Because they really do like each other deep down inside and would even consider each other friends but just would never admit it. By keeping Punisher in more character-driven scenes, that allows more time to create deeper moments for Matt and push his character forward. Number 2, get creative with the violence. You can get pretty gnarly with a PG-13 rating if you set your mind to it. Creative camera moves, editing, acting, and sound mixing can truly make a scene feel more intense. For instance, you can have a scene where Frank is beating the shit out of a bunch of people and you can hear their bones snap, hear their screams as they beg him not to take their life. And if you want to get bloody, there could be a shot where he's in a building and there's construction or something, and there could be a bunch of white plastic sheets hung up and you can see the silhouettes of the people as Frank blows them to shreds with his guns. You'll see everything, but because you don't actually see the detail, you can get away with it. Now, to wrap around to number 1 real quick, this only works in a limited setting. That's why you can only do a few episodes, because the audience will get frustrated after a longer period of time not seeing all the excessive gore. If Marvel were to announce a PG-13 solo Punisher show, I don't think anyone would want to watch it, because it would be non-stop shortcuts, and after a while there won't be a creative attempt to cover it up like the example I just gave. The fights will eventually become boring for the character and the audience will hate it. To wrap everything up, I think there are ways the show could work by setting it in a grounded MCU and utilizing more serious tones and character-driven aspects that will challenge the audience and the characters themselves. Have the violence be intense, but don't rely on gore, which in all honesty, the original series didn't overly exploit to begin with anyway. And with Punisher, keep him in a limited amount of episodes and use him to have interesting banter with Matt. And lastly, get creative with how you show his violent and gory nature. So there you have it. It's the best ideas I could come up with for a PG-13 Daredevil and Punisher, but I'm sure there are way better ideas and I would genuinely love to hear them. So leave your concepts down in the comments below. Thank you.